Good morning. Just going to wait just another minute here and see if anyone else joins us. All right. Hello. Welcome, everyone, to the WZ Coffee Break. My name is Patty Mattison, and I am one of the support team members behind the scenes, supporting the instructors that bring the WZ method to life. And this is our 9th week of coffee breaks, which is just crazy to think about. And if you happen to have missed any of the coffee breaks that we've had over the last 9 weeks, you'll be able to find those on the WZ YouTube channel and watch them whenever they're convenient for you. So with my homemade Starbucks cold brew in hand in my favorite Hocus Pocus mug. Let's get started. This is so exciting. Okay, so let me have a sip first. Okay, so before we get started on today's topic, I need to pull back the curtain a little bit, give you a little insight into how things look behind the scenes at WZ. So in addition to the partners and the instructors and the handful of support team members like myself, which by the way, we are extremely grateful for all the wonderful conversations and opportunities we have to connect with all of you on a regular basis. And what's even more amazing are the stories that we hear after you've been through the training, that you really enjoyed the training, or that the instructor was, fantastic, or they were so entertaining, or they were so funny, or what we really like is when you guys remind us of how lucky we are to be working with our instructors, because they sure as heck don't remind us of it on a regular basis. Okay, so back to the topic at hand. Behind the scenes, WZ, the entire team is based on a culture of 16 fundamentals. And we work really hard at embracing these every day. And if you're interested in learning more about those fundamentals, they're on our WZ website under the Who We Are tab. And when one of us finds an educational resource that provides us with a better understanding of how we can implement that fundamental, we share it amongst ourselves. And so today's topic ties into our fundamental number 16, which is we embrace accountability, which has led many of us to read a book authored by John Miller called QBQ, Question Behind the Question. And it's what to really ask yourself to eliminate blame, victim thinking, complaining, and procrastination. So this is the book. So the QBQ is basically about the internal questions that we ask ourselves. And the observation is that our first reactions when we're asking questions in our mind are often negative. And John, the author, talks about how we can practice and use discipline to change the way we're asking those questions of ourselves. So to help with that, John encourages us to begin with what and how. When we're asking questions of ourselves internally, start with what and how, and not when, why, or who. And I want to make sure that I get this right for you. So I'm going to just kind of peek into the book a little bit. It's important to understand why we don't want to use those when, who, and why questions. So when we ask ourselves when, we're really saying we have no choice but to wait and put off action until another time. Basically, it's just leading us to procrastinate. So when is Bob going to complete that report would be one of the questions, internal questions that we would ask ourselves. When we ask who, we deflect to someone else. we take the responsibility away from ourselves and we're looking for someone else to blame. Who's supposed to be emailing that client? When we ask why, we take on the tone of being a victim in the environment and the people around us. Why don't people care as much as I care? So that's when, who, and why. We want to remove those from our internal questioning. When we move to what or how, we ask ourselves better questions. And when you can include the word I in it, then it helps to make sure that you're taking personal responsibility when you're asking those internal questions. So, what can I do to find the information needed to close the case? How can I help move this forward? So, say goodbye to when, who, why, and embrace what and how. So in the book, and I'm not going to do the story justice, but I'm going to do my best. John tells a story about how he walked into a really busy restaurant during lunch hour, and he grabs a seat at the bar, and he's waiting, and eventually a young man walks by who is probably a busboy, and he sees John out of the corner of his eye, and he's like, "Have you been helped?" And John's like, "No, I haven't. And by the way, I'm kind of in a hurry, and I just basically want to grab, salad and a Diet Coke." So I don't know about you, I'm a Coke lover. And so the words that I hate to hear are, we don't have Coke. Would Pepsi be okay? And this is exactly what happened to John. And John is obviously a hardcore Coke guy. And he said, no, I'll just, thanks, but I'll just have a water instead. So a short while later, the same guy comes back. He gives John a salad and a water, and he's off again, swooshing around the restaurant. John can see that this guy is extremely busy. When all of a sudden, as John is eating, a 20-ounce Diet Coke is placed right in front of him. And zoom, the guy who brought it to him is off again. And John is confused. And then he takes the moment and he realizes, actually, I'm impressed. So as soon as he can get the attention of the this young man, he calls him over and he asks him, "Hey, I thought you said you didn't sell Diet Coke. Where did this come from?" And so he tells John that there's a grocery store around the corner. And John comments like, "How did you even find the time to go and get this Diet Coke?" And he said, "Well, actually, I asked my manager to do it." And John's like, "Wait, what?" So rather than this guy using, questions in his mind, like, when are we going to start carrying Diet Coke? Or why am I always covering for these servers who never seem to have time for the customers? He took a positive approach and asked himself, how can I make this experience more pleasant for this person who is dining with us and maybe has been overlooked? Or what can I do? I can ask my manager, can you go and get a Diet Coke for this guy? So the moral of the method is, the moral, of the method is that we work to change the negative questions we're asking ourselves and be disciplined and reject them, and instead ask better questions that make us more accountable and lead to better results. So the good news is that in those moments of frustration, when we have an opportunity to contribute to a better outcome, like this guy in the story, it exists. There's always going to be barriers. There's always going to be something to overcome. There's always going to be something we have no control over. For instance, like losing your internet connection 5 minutes before you're supposed to go on a live stream. But instead of focusing on those barriers, we can work to be disciplined on our internal questioning and ask ourselves the right questions so that we can succeed no matter what the situation. So I encourage you to test out the QBQ method for yourself, discipline your thoughts, ask better questions, and then take action. Can you tell I'm nervous and I'm so relieved that this is done? But I really appreciate you guys joining us. Internally, I'm asking myself, what can I do as the person who's back in marketing in a windowless padded office next to the bathrooms? You think I'm joking, but I'm not. Seriously, what can I do to make your life easier as far as learning and growing? And how can we, or how can I do a better job at making sure that you're receiving all of the information that you should be receiving from us, so that we're readily available whenever we're needed. And I do ask myself those internal questions, but if you happen to have any contributions as to what would help answer those, I'd really appreciate it. Hit us up on our website under the contact us and the info. We will look forward to seeing you tomorrow at 9:30. Thanks so much. Cheers. Have a great day.